Is Bitcoin destroying the planet? What's behind the debate of Bitcoin's energy usage? The first thing to understand in this debate is that energy is not globally fungible. Electricity decays as it leaves its point of origin. It is expensive to transport it. Globally, around 8% of electricity is lost in transit. Even high voltage transmission lines suffer line losses, making it impractical to transport electricity over long distances. This is why we talk about energy grid. You have to produce it virtually everywhere, especially near population centers. Before we start, please don't forget to subscribe, as that helps me make more videos like this. In some parts of the globe, there's an excess of production of energy, and some of it is wasted, but in some other areas, that's used to produce some goods. One example of that is Iceland and its production of aluminum smelters. Iceland has vast amounts of accessible and expensive renewable energy in the form of geothermal, but it's not possible to build power lines all across the Atlantic. So Iceland converts that energy and produces aluminum and ships that around the world. That aluminum is Iceland converting its stranded renewable energy into value. That's basically Iceland exporting its energy. In a sense, the aluminum coming out of Iceland is like a battery. What's a battery? A battery is a way of shifting the location and time of use of energy. Whereas live electricity, whether produced by coal, gas, wind, or solar, needs to be used right then and there, electricity converted into aluminum can be used anytime, anywhere. Dams are batteries, gasoline is a battery, and even aluminum is a battery. And of course, as traditional batteries start and end with energy directly, aluminum's battery is economic, converting energy to value. And that value can be reused anywhere. Which brings us back to crypto mining. Crypto mining converts electricity into value in the form of crypto assets. That is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and etc. Those assets, like the aluminum produced in Iceland, can be then transferred, transformed, and moved anywhere in the globe. But they are different from the aluminum produced in Iceland that must be physically shipped to its final destination. Crypto assets can be moved instantly in the internet. So if we think of Bitcoin as a battery, what can we do with it? The key properties of Bitcoin are always on and permissionless. You don't need to find customers, you just plug and play. And naturally low cost, seeking electricity. So with Bitcoin as a battery, we can actually use for the following problems. First, interconnection queues. When you develop new energy resources, you need to apply to get them connected to the electric grid. Texas alone has around 100 gigawatts of renewables in its queue. It can take years for this queue to clear and these energy resources to connect to the grid. In the meantime, these assets can be online and earn Bitcoin. Second, geographic issues. Sometimes the sunniest and windiest places are not close to population centers, so it's hard to justify the development of new renewables. Bitcoin solves this by becoming a virtual transmission line for this energy. Third and most important, cleaning the grid. Even outside the renewable generation, Bitcoin can help both emissions and the energy mix. As one example, Crusoe Energy attaches turbines and efficient mining material to its glass flaring sites, both improving emissions and turning the energy into Bitcoin battery. So let's take a look at real Bitcoin mining data. When you consider Bitcoin's energy intake, interesting patterns emerge. New data from the Cambridge Center of Alternative Finance shows what we already knew. China is the center of Bitcoin mining, as you can see in this graph. Specific regions like Xinjiang, Sichuan, and Inner Mongolia dominate inside China. and the results are revealing. Sichuan, second only in hash power to Xinjiang, is a province characterized by a recent massive overbuild of hydroelectric power in the last decade. Sichuan hydro capacity is double what its energy grid can support, so that leads to a lot of curtailment or waste. Dams can only support so much energy in the form of water before they let it out. It's an open secret that this once wasted energy is being used for Bitcoin mining, and you can see that in these graphs. If your local energy cost is basically zero and you can't sell that energy anywhere, a global buyer of this energy is a godsend. What about all these articles saying that Bitcoin is destroying the planet? A common mistake that detractors use is that they extrapolate Bitcoin's energy usage to CO2 emissions. What matters is the energy type used for Bitcoin mining. The academic reports usually reported by the press assume an invariant global energy mix or a country invariant mix. Even though lots of Bitcoin are mined in China, it's not appropriate to map Chinese generic CO2 footprint to Bitcoin mining. As discussed before, Bitcoin looks for otherwise curtailed energy that would be wasted otherwise. Bitcoin seeks out curtailed energy, which is usually renewable. Any estimate needs to take this into account. And added that to the fact that renewables are much cheaper than other types of energy everywhere in the world, and they're getting cheaper by the day. That also means that Bitcoin buys that cheap energy and also increases the volume of renewable sources. And because it increases the energy renewable power generation, it also decreases its price over time, creating a nice flywheel. But what about proof of stake versus proof of work? So there are different ways of confirming transactions, and one of the ways is through proof of work, and there are other ways like proof of stake. But for every decision there are pros and cons. And even though proof of stake uses less energy, it centralizes power in the hands of the people that have money. And that's the whole reason why Bitcoin was created, to decentralize power. Ethereum, for example, already decided to bail out some developers that made a mistake with a protocol. That's unlikely to happen with Bitcoin in the future, as a lot of the consensus is determined by proof of work. But what about the runaway costs as the prices of Bitcoin go up? As that increases the total revenue per transaction and increases the total miners in the world. As most Bitcoin observers know, every 4 years there are Bitcoin halvings, and so issuing as a driver of mining revenue will decrease over time. If I had to guess, Bitcoin halving every 4 years will at least offset its price appreciation over time. And so issuance revenue for miners will decrease over time, and security spending will increase over time. But security fees have a natural ceiling, as they can't go above the total transaction. If these fees become too high, users will look elsewhere or use other layers on top of the Bitcoin network. So it's very unlikely that the security spend will have this huge feedback loop that the press usually talks about. In the long term, Bitcoin energy consumption is going to be a linear function of its security spend. And like any other utility, the public willingness to spend in block space will determine how many resources will go to this asset. And so the amount of money spent on Bitcoin mining will probably go linear over time and will probably be used by renewable sources. I hope you liked this video. Let me know if you have any questions down below. I hope you have a great day. See you.